Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Learning Fives. We were almost on time today. We were only 6 minutes off. My name is Can Opener Dude, and I am joined here by N-Step, and we are going to cast this game between an incredibly long name that I have to look up in order to figure out exactly what it is. It is Team Crackin' a Cold One in the Doghouse with the boys and Gragas and no GF while gassing the Weebs versus Rip ACVIUS. Okay, so now we're in. And Steph, say hi to the nice people.
How are you doing, nice people?
Now say hi to all the rest of the people.
All right, how are you doing, not nice people?
Apparently, I am very loud. That's not my fault. Complain to the streamer guy. God. Anyway, so we got some bands coming in. Galio, Lulu, Zach, Ramus, and Caitlin. What can you tell me about these bands so far?
Well, the Caitlyn, the Galio, the Zach, pretty standard stuff. I mean, these are just some of the best champions on this patch. The Ramus and the Lulu, I assume, are a little bit more targeted, although I didn't actually have time to do a lot of research before this game like I normally do, so I honestly don't know that much. The Sejuani is something that's interestingly, I've been seeing at a lot of top lane recently, and we're seeing a Karma first pick, which makes a lot of sense. She's really strong on this patch still, although people have been moving more over towards playmaking supports like Thresh and Bard. Karma is still quite strong, so seeing her first pick is not a huge surprise.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Lulu, of course, has always been a very steady support, so I can imagine that it's good to pick that up. According to Belkarama here, those are all of his junglers. So, they're just target banning him all to hell. Anyway, Annie and Elise pick up for the side of, I do believe that is Crackin' a Cold. Yes. ACVIUS is starting on blue side, so Crackin' a Cold One is picking up the Elise and Annie. I believe that's just going to be mid and jungle then, right?
Most likely, and that does represent a pretty strong pick composition already with just 2 picks in. Elise with the Cocoon and Annie with the Flash Tibbers. You classically expect both of them to go for picks. Annie maybe a little bit more inclined towards team fighting as well, but both quite strong for those kinds of wombo combo CC chains that you can pick people off with quite easily. See the response here, the Jarvan and the Varus, both quite strong meta picks here. Jarvan can be played in the jungle, but I'm not a huge fan of it personally. I don't think it's that great just because the clear is really slow and you take a lot of damage. I think top lane, though, it's quite strong on this patch, so that's nice to see. The Varus, quite a good AD carry on this patch. You run your Blade the Ruin King first item, and the Ashe response, so 2 utility carries going to be seen here. Alongside with so far an Ari ban, and we'll have to see what else shapes up here, but we're going to have to expect some mid lane bans over here from Gas, as I will call the red side team here, since I'm not going to say anything out as long as their entire team name. So they target out the mid lane here, maybe even more junglers since they've already banned 3 junglers out. And on the other side, they have their choice of whether they want to target top lane or the support pool, or if that any is a support play, they could maybe look at targeting out mid laners.
It looks like they are going to assume that it is a mid Annie and pinch that support pool just a little bit more. Not really much in the way of really crazy stuff going down just yet. Could that Varus be mid lane is the question, or is that definitely an ADC Varus?
I mean, mid lane Varus has really been kind of not present in any game that I've ever seen since the changes to Varus Q and all the lethality items. His Q is on a 4-second higher cooldown, and it has a lower ratio. It's really just not worth investing all of your resources and all of your time into putting your mid lane pick into this scaling pick that now doesn't even really have the insane poke damage or the low cooldown that it did before. So I don't really think there's any chance that that's a mid lane Varus. I've personally tried it a few times after the change, and I just found it to be really, really, really weak. And we're seeing a Kled here, potentially into Jarvan, if that is a Jarvan top lane, or again, it could be a Jarvan jungle. So the Kled is a good blind pick. There are a couple matchups that are hard for it, but it is still a really strong pick in the current meta. Again, alongside all these other champions, it is a champion that does have the potential to work well in a pick composition, since you can ultimate to follow up on like a long distance Ashe arrow or follow up on like an Elise Cocoon or something like that. So that can be really strong. And an Orianna response here, just a good stable mid lane pick for the side of Rip ACVIUS here.
Yeah, it looks like ACVIUS is building somewhat of a lockdown and then annihilate kind of comp. They've got the Jarvan, they've got the Orianna, and they've got the Varus to just kind of stand there and throw arrows into your face. It looks like that what they want to do is they want to have that Jarvan and that Fiora just kind of rush in and then follow them up with massive damage from the Orianna and Varus. Meanwhile, on the other side, looks like they're shaping up, like you said, for more of a pick comp. Zillion would certainly complement that and give them a bit more utility as well on the backside.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the last pick Fiora here doesn't really fit the rest of the composition. It is a essentially a hard counter to the Kled matchup. It's very good into the Kled, but the Fiora is kind of weird because you're looking at like a Jarvan Orianna comp with a Varus. Like when you see Jarvan Orianna, you're automatically assuming, okay, that Jarvan's going to go Cataclysm, 2 to 3 people, and then you're expecting the Shockwave to come out right on top of the Jarvan inside the Cataclysm, and then you're going for like a team fight wombo combo style comp. But the Fiora doesn't really fit that at all, even though it is good in the lane matchup. So that means that unlike a normal wombo combo comp where you're just looking to finish, 1 or 2 items on your Orianna and then just send your Jarvan in and have that wombo combo go off, you can't really do that exactly because your Fiora is going to be waiting for 2 to 3 items before she's really effective as a champion. So there's going to be a bit of delayed scaling here on the part of Rip ACVIUS, where Gas has some time to look for their picks and set up their pick composition, set up their vision, and maybe make some plays around objectives before Rip ACVIUS really gets online because of the Fiora's need for the scaling.
Yeah, that all makes a whole heck of a lot of sense to me. Given the comps that we're seeing here, given everything you just said, if you had to make predictions based solely upon the draft, who would you give it to right now?
I think the draft goes in favor of Gas. I really like the full pick comps in the current meta, especially when certain things aren't picked on the enemy team. Like pick comps into just like what I would say, just normal champions, champions without mobility like Orianna and Varus, where if you hit an Ash arrow on them, they're 100% dead. And you might note there's no Tom Kench here from the side of Rip ACVIUS, which is the big, that champion is the big counter to pick compositions. Even other champions like Zillion can really be a hard thing for pick compositions to play against, but this is just a Karma. The Karma Shield is nice, but it's not going to stop you from dying if you get hit by an Elise Cocoon or an Annie-Flash Tibbers or an Ash ult or something like that, right? So I'm not a huge fan of the scaling comp, but that said, like the scaling comp here in regards, like in response to the pick comp, but that said, I do think that if Gas isn't able to get an early lead, isn't able to make effective use of their pick composition in the early game, they will just be ground out by this composition on the other side from Rip ACVIUS, just because the Fiora will eventually be something they can't deal with. No matter how many people they send, the Fiora will like pull too much pressure to be overcome, right? And even the pick comp, normally you think of a pick comp, you say, okay, well the pick comp can always pick someone off to answer that, right? It's very difficult to do that against Fiora just because of how strong she is and how many people she can answer once she hits that 3 to 4 item point. So there is a lot of danger here, even though I do think the Gas composition is favored in this situation.
All right. That gives us a lot to think about. We're going to take a really short break here as we count down the last minute or so of the spectator delay and get into game for Team Rip ACVIUS versus Team Crackin open a cold one with the boys and Gragas and something else and some other thing as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back in just a minute.
I remember they would say it's all okay, you'll be alright.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are on to the Rift for Game 1 of this series between Rip ACVIUS and Team Crackin Open a Cold One. We're in the game, something about Ocean Men, and something about Reese and his Kled. Anyway, I'm going to give us right down the line of the different players, and then we'll get right into some action, assuming they don't invade and cut me off. On the blue side, representing Team Rip ACVIUS, we have Monster in the top lane, Belkarama, the sub in the jungle, Zeta feeding it in the mid lane, Alpha as something in the ADC role, joined by Type 2 Diabetes as the support. And on the team Crackin Open a Cold Ones, we've got Panda Blubber in the top lane. We've got Jarsa bringing it up in the jungle, Hana Song in the mid lane, Lord Ultra Titan 96 playing that Ashe ADC, and Milkshake Mac on support. So, standard lineup for the most part here. As the game gets paused, right into the action here at Learning Fives.
Right into the pause.
Okay.
And 9 seconds, we get the pause. Classic stuff. So now would be a good time to talk about itemization in the early game, I guess. So classic stuff here on this patch. We're looking at double Doran shield in the bot lane on the AD carries. Spell Thief's Edge into the coin from Janna. So, standard stuff there. Interesting thing here is there's a mismatched buy in top lane and a mismatched buy in the jungle. Top lane, we've got the Doran's Blade, which is kind of standard on Fiora, into the Doran's Shield from Kled, which will give Kled an early advantage, but the Doran's Shield doesn't quite scale as well as the Doran's Blade. Once you hit the 1 to 2 item point, the Doran's Blade is quite a bit better than the Shield, but in the early game, the Shield is a lot better. And in the jungle, the Jarvan has gone with the 3 potion start rather than the refillable, which does give him a lot more pressure in the early game, but gives him essentially diminishing returns on his bases. At least you're going to get this refillable potion. You actually get essentially gold value every time you base with the refillable and you get to recharge it, whereas Jarvan won't be generating that extra gold. And that can be an issue, especially for champions like Jarvan that have a weaker early clear. When he does his early base, while his early game is good, if he doesn't get something out of these 3 extra potions, he's probably going to fall behind, even though the Elise is traditionally known as like a champion that falls off pretty hard.
I'll have to see how that works out for them here. We're counting down the pause, getting back into game, see if there's going to be any sort of aggression here. Level 1, that is an excellent Jarvan skin, by the way.
Victorious Jarvan, very nice. I believe it's from, season 2 or season 1? I don't recall which
one was season 2, I believe.
Season 1 and season 2, one's Victorious Jarvan, one's Victorious Janna, but I don't remember which is which.
Those were I joined right in the middle of season 2, so I do believe it was Jarvan that came out, but it's all a big fuzz for me because I was still trying to figure out what the heck a champion was at the time. Meanwhile, Jungle starts our thing.
Yeah, so the jungle starts here again. Another mismatch. We're looking at the Elise starting on blue, whereas the Jarvan is starting alone on Raptors. So the fact that he's starting alone is kind of a problem. But the nice thing here is that as we're seeing some trading in mid lane, the nice thing about that is that the 3 potions will help him with the fact that he had to do it without any assistance. But the Raptors is generally a better start. There's a reason why the best junglers right now are all champions that can start Raptors effectively, with the exception of Lee Sin, who can still do it even if he's not great at Raptors. And the Raptors does give you a really big boost to your early experience. And in particular, it lets you get your second Raptor spawn much earlier than will be had on the side here of Jarsa, for example. His second Raptor spawn is going to be super delayed. And so he's going to be quite a bit behind in experience behind Belkarama. If Belkarama is able to get that second Raptor spawn relatively early on, he should gain about half a level off of the total trade. So that can be really nice. The advantage is that Jarsa saved a bunch of health because he got a decent leash on that blue buff. So it's kind of a trade-off, but in general, most people would say the Raptors is worth it.
We'll have to see how Belkarama is able to use that early Raptors to his advantage. Like we said, if he's able to get ahead early, it will mean great things for him. Come later, we do see Panda Blubber losing Skarl there in the top lane. That's going to put a damper on his ability to survive any team fights with Monster, and that's something you do not want to have happen when you're facing a Fiora.
Yeah, it's, as I mentioned, this is a really hard counter matchup, as we're seeing Belkarama, even with the 3 potions, is just getting grossly out-sustained in the jungle. Jarsa's full HP, Belkarama is almost dead. So that's a big problem. Again, like I said, the Jarvan jungle is just really not that great because you clear slowly and you get beat up a lot in the jungle. And starting on Raptors with no leash certainly isn't going to help that. So Even
Good
with the
sidestep by
pre-potions.
Zeta there, by the way.
Yeah, it was a nice sidestep on that cocoon. But, again, looking across the board, that like up here in the top lane, this is just a good example of like how hard this matchup is for Kled. There's really not a lot you can do against Fiora as Kled. You kind of just have to expect that you're going to lose lane. But also, not to say that there was nothing he could have done. He's definitely made some mistakes. He didn't pop a potion while he still had Skarl to get the health to go onto Skarl rather than Kled. Now, because he's capped by the health of Kled, he can't really use his potions. So you can see he has 2 potions alongside the Doran shield, but he can't really make use of either one because that health cap from being dismounted. So that's kind of an issue, and that's a big mistake that's actually costing him a lot in this laning phase here. Now that he's remounted, he should be able to start farming up a little bit more, but it probably won't be enough now to get him back after he's already lost about 10 CS for free.
It does mean an early advantage here to Monster, and with Monster already, Jarsa, being in that top lane, they're not really accomplishing a whole heck of a lot. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, a little bit of engage. Lord's Altar Titan just kind of walks out there. Jarsa gives a little bit of leg, and he's going to walk back down river here.
Yeah, a nice quick tornado there by Milkshake Mac, actually saving Lord Ultra Titan his flash there. I think if that tether goes off on the Ashe in that situation, you probably have to heal or flash, and Hanasong might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Zeta does not have the ultimate available, so Hana will be able to walk out.
Kind of surprised that it didn't go for the flash auto attack there. With the stacking passive, the Clockwork windup from Orianna, I'm about 80 to 90% sure that would have been a kill there if he went for that flash auto attack. So it seems a little suspect to not go for it there. But maybe he knows the damage better than I do. Maybe he says, okay, he's going to live at 3 or 4 HP or single digit HP, something like that. And he just decides not to go for it. So hard to say without looking at the exact numbers, but look like maybe he could have gotten it there. As we're seeing some more top lane CSing. Even despite the fact that Jarsa came up there and just kind of zoned Monster for a while, there's still a huge CS lead for Monster. Even though he lost all the CS while Jarsa was there in lane. So, you can see that the matchup is already just so one-sided, even this early in the game.
One thing to bear in mind is that because Zeta did not flash in to get that kill onto Hana, one thing that does give him is that he still has his flash, obviously. But because Jarsa is going to be looking to gank rather heavily in the next level or two, it does mean he's going to have that safety net available to him, which is something he's definitely going to need against a high mobility champion, like the kind of comp that's going to come out. Here, Belkarama comes in. There's going to be a flash coming out to try and get onto Monster for Panda Blubber, but Belkarama is able to get some auto attacks in. First blood does go over to the jungler.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes there. A lot of mistakes there in that 1v1. I think either player, if they'd played it a little better, could have come out with a 1v1 kill with that, regardless of the fact that Belkarama was coming up there. I think it was just a little like awkwardly played on both sides. The parry from Monster was pretty heinous. It's just not great, in my opinion, to waste your parry like that, especially when Kled has so many things that are so easy to parry, like the last hit of Violent Tendencies or the pullback on Bear Trap on a rope. Extremely easy to parry, and I think just not parrying them is pretty bad. Zeta gonna go down here instantly to the flash ult ignite from Hanasong.
And use the flash anyway, plus the cleanse.
Yeah, cleansing and not getting the ignite there, kind of unfortunate. Actually, really nice by Hanasong to not ignite instantly, because if you stack the stun and the ignite there, then you just cleanse and the ignite gets removed. So Jarsa going in, but he's gonna get rooted. He may go down.
As Alpha getting exhausted here, it means they will not be able to pick up Jarsa. Meanwhile, the Kled ultimate's coming in. That's charge in onto Alpha. He's going to have to flash type 2 Diabetes, will also flash. Hanasong's coming down. Tibbers is still here. Belkarama goes in with the flag and drag into Cataclysm. And I ran out of breath, but the kill is picked up by Alpha. Whew. And now Monster's here too.
End of the day, the Annie commits the flash to get the mid lane kill in the 1v1, and that's great, but you go for the roam afterwards, stay up a little bit too far, and then get picked off by the Cataclysm because you don't have flash. So it's kind of confusing there to go for a roam with no ultimate, no flash, no ignite as Annie. Even if you know the Kled is going down there, I feel like you just kind of have to say, all right, Panda Blubber, go down there, make your roam play, and then you either get it or you don't, right? Like, just get your summoners or just do whatever you can. And I'm going to back off, get at my good base mid lane. But the way it is now, Hanasong ends up actually at a deficit, 20 CS down. That's worth more than a kill, right? So Hanasong is actually down in this lane despite getting a solo kill. And the fact that Zeta was able to buy a magic resist item is going to make it a lot more difficult for Hennesong to actually get another play like that, where he gets that one shot from the flash or from the Tibbers combo. So even though the solo kill did go down, I feel like Zeta is now advantaged, as we're seeing the Chain of
That's the
Corruption
Tendrils of Corruption going down onto Lord Ultra Titan, followed by the Mantrid Q, picked up with an auto attack by Type 2 Diabetes. Pretty much just a disrespect there by Lord Ultra Titan, not respecting the fact that Alpha was level 6. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Stubborn Tibbers is coming back in, Zeta getting very, very low, but there's the Shockwave into the flash and flag and drag from Belkarama, picking up another kill. He's now 2-0-1. Putting himself pretty far ahead, about 1,000 gold up on Jarsa.
Yeah, and a lot of these plays from the Jarvan, like yes, the Jarvan, it clears slowly. Yes, it takes a lot of damage, but the one thing it's great at is punishing people that overcommit. And in every instance, he's got 2 kills and 1 assist. Every single time he's gotten a kill participation in this game, it's been an overcommit from someone on the side of Team Crackin open a cold one, et cetera, et cetera.
Getting a little bit of aggression from Jarsa here. He's saving the parry and actually gets baited out by Jarsa there with an auto attack, thinking it was going to be the Cocoon.
Yeah, but the minion wave is there to hold him out. So even though he did completely miss the parry, it actually doesn't get punished just because. Oh wow, the mid turret going down already. That is insane. It's only 10 minutes in, and that's mid turret going down. I think mostly solo, just to Zeta, and that's going to be a huge gold boost. As you can see, a really, really, really big gold advantage here for Rip ACVIUS.
Yeah, that's about a, well, now it's ballooned to 4,000 gold. It's about 3,000 gold last time I checked, but then they got a dragon.
In addition to that Earth Dragon, that Earth Dragon certainly doesn't hurt. Makes it a lot easier to burn down the Baron and all those towers. And of course, Earth Dragon, infamous for being really strong on this Fiora, because the Fiora can get onto your towers and just blow them up much more quickly with the Earth Dragon than she can without that.
You already have a legendary split pusher in the top lane in Fiora, and you're just going to give her more tools to push in farther. That's a recipe for disaster there.
And that's what I was talking about there earlier. The parry on the bear trap on a rope is kind of what I was expecting. Unfortunately, he missed the actual hit of the parry itself, and then he kind of dove the turret and died. But the idea was good, getting that parry, but he needed to follow it up and actually aim the parry correctly. So the repost, it's a great ability, but it's not just something that you just, I parried it, I parried this ability, and that automatically means I win necessarily. Zeta might get the kill here as the flash from Panda Blubber. Willie is going to remount.
Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Alpha is caught out here by 3 members. He's going to go down despite the chains. It's actually going to be picked up by Lord Ultra Titan. Meanwhile, Panda Blubber is chasing down Zeta. Zeta is going to get him to unmount, but the buckshot? No, that's not buckshot. That's
Pocket pistol.
Pocket pistol takes him down.
Yeah, so key mistake there by Zeta, actually. In a lot of situations like that where you're at low HP, as we're seeing Belkarama might actually just get soloed in his jungle.
Jarsa picking up the kill. Belkarama not able to pick up his own Raptors.
Interesting pathing there by Jarsa to actually get in there. But yeah, going back to the top lane play where Zeta went down, there's actually a key mistake that you see pretty often against Kled, where Kled, if he's at that range away from you, not in melee range, and he doesn't have any cooldowns up, and you're both at low HP, what happens a lot of times is people will, as a ranged champion like an Orianna, will knock Skarl knock Kled off of Skarl, and then they will die to the pocket pistol or the extra range on the auto attacks from Kled, when the actual correct play is just to not hit them at all. Because if you don't hit him, he doesn't have any range, he doesn't have any cooldown, so he can't actually do anything to you. Whereas in that situation, because Zeta dismounted Panda Blubber, he actually ended up getting the kill. So essentially, Zeta killed himself by just hitting Panda Blubber there off of his mount. So neat little interaction you see there. Again, it's something Skarl and Kled is one of the most difficult things to play against in general, in my opinion, in the game. And it takes a lot of experience, a lot of practice, and that's just Zeta's inexperience playing against the champion showing off there. Just a lot of people are not used to playing against a champion that actually gains range by taking damage, essentially, in some ways.
Alpha and Type 2 Diabetes going in here a bit. They actually might be able to pick up Milkshake Mac here. There's going to be a flash, and the arrow misses at point-blank range, but Lord Ultra Titan is able to get the return kill nonetheless with the help of the tower. Monster and Panda Blubber.
It doesn't end up mattering, so still picked up the kill. Maybe could have gotten the double kill there if the arrow did land, but Still pretty decent there in that situation for Lord Ultra Titan, since he does get to keep farming, even though his support did go down. Zeta coming around for a dive, but Lord Ultra Titan does have flash here, and I don't know if they really want to try and do this, although he is getting pretty low.
Yeah, but now they've managed to see that Hanasong is here. They will not be able to get in on them. Lanes will reset for the moment. Zeta is hanging out in the bot side. Monster and Plan to Blubber duking it out yet again. Not a whole lot to talk about, though. They're not going to get anything in particular down, except for Scarl running away.
Yeah, I mean, like I keep saying, this matchup, it's really difficult to play against this.
Oh, that's the Shockwave on to Lord Ultra Titan. Gonna mean the Flash has to come out.
Yeah, I think that was actually a little bit of an early commit on the Flash. There was no follow-up damage to come through. They could have waited for the Chain of Corruption to be shown before he flashed out there. So Lord Ultra Titan maybe getting a little bit antsy with the Flash there. Maybe he could have held it, but it's nice to have respect for your opponents there, though. So I can certainly understand just going for the instant Flash. As we're seeing, maybe another turret go down here for Rep ACVIUS so they can extend the gold lead at about 4K right now, just about what it was a few minutes ago.
They are behind in kills right now, so they definitely want to be picking up these objectives where they can, utilizing that Mountain Drake as much as possible to try and eke out as much of a lead as they can. The next dragon is going to be that Infernal, so that's going to be even more help to both teams here. About to see who gets a hold of that when it comes up. Panda Blubber just farming under his tower for the time being. Belkarama manages to pick up a red buff. Not sure if that was... No, he did not get... He did not get it. Looks like Jarsa did manage to pick up that red buff.
The interesting build here from Belkarama. He's got the components of both the Warrior and the Cinderhulk, so hard to say really what his thought process is here. Again, like I keep saying, this Jarvan jungle is just really not that great right now as a sort of like a meta jungler, just not as strong as other picks. But if you were going to do it, I have to imagine Warrior is the way to go on the current patch, just because Cinderhulk is so weak for champion damage right now. It's more oriented towards clearing the jungle, which Jarvan doesn't really need help with in particular at the moment. So I'm wondering if he's going to be building that into a Sunfire cape. But again, we'll have to see. Zeta's getting a steal on the blue buff as Jarsa misses the cocoon, and that maybe could have been a good punish if he'd gotten it.
There goes the Shockwave onto 2. Milkshake Mac immediately gets caught down. Hanasong flashes in, being able to pick up the kill with the help of Jarsa. Now Belkarama's going to go down with the Cataclysm. The teleport is canceled.
This is going to be an Infernal for cracking a cold one, I think.
Alpha getting caught by the bear trap, but it does not get the pool. The Tendrils of Corruption do need to go down to make sure that Alpha cannot get caught out. It does mean that the top tower does fall, but the Infernal Drake does go over to the side of a very long name that I forgot for a second there, and it is in fact cracking open a cold one.
Yeah, I mean, cracking up a cold one is going to be really happy with that trade. They trade 1 for 2, and they end up with the Infernal off the back side of that. Plus, some of the kills went over to Panda Blubber there, which is actually really key because he is losing this matchup extremely badly. You can see right now, yes, he has the Ninja Tabby up on Monster, but Monster has essentially an extra Tiamat on him. So even though the Ninja Tabby are much better in the 1v1 than the Mercury Treads, since the Mercury Treads don't really do anything against Kled, but he's going to need as much gold as he can get to try and get in this 1v1 as much as he can. And even though I've said, over and over, there's no way Kled can ever 1v1 this lane matchup, which is true, it's better if you can at least hold the lane 1v1 for a respectable amount of time. Whereas if this Kled keeps falling further and further behind in the 1v1 matchup, eventually the Fiora is just going to be able to dive him under inhib turrets and things like that. And that's when the game starts getting out of control and there's just really nothing you can do, even if the rest of your team has an advantage. And at this point, their team doesn't even have an advantage. So it's a really tough spot for cracking up in a cold one. And that kind of play that they just got, where they get a favorable trade and Dragon, is exactly what they need to keep doing.
Pings coming in on the mid lane. It looks like a fight might be progressing here. Meanwhile, in the bot lane now, Monster is pushing. The arrow comes down, but it does miss everyone, followed by charge into Zeta. Panda Blubber going really ham. They are able to pick up type 2 diabetes with the Tibbers, and then Zeta goes down. Now it's up to Belkarama to do something here. He is able to pick up Milkshake Mac. Now it's up to Lord Ultra Titan to be able to pick up a return kill. Belkarama able to get one. Is he able to get the other? No, Tibbers is going to be able to take him down here. And that is going to end up being 2 for 4 with the tower. But that doesn't mean that Monster was able to get an inner tower in the bot side.
Yeah, and a lot of CS lost to that Nexus turret, and that will be taking, or not Nexus turret, the Inhib turret, sorry. And that Inhib turret will be taking a good bit of damage from those minions as well. And if Monster's able to, no, he missed the parry, so I don't think he's going to be able to get much here. Panda Blubber is going to get dropped off of Skarl there, but that's a-okay in this situation, since even though Kled himself has very low movement speed, there is not going to be any follow-up chase coming onto him, so that is fine. And yeah, at this point, it's kind of, I think it's kind of clear that Crackin Open a Cold One team, Crackin Open a Cold One is going to have the advantage in these team fights if they can continue getting these great Kled ultimates like they have been getting. These great charges have been enabling them to get these team fights off. The problem is, again, this Fiora is going to hit 2 items, 3 items pretty soon, and eventually they're going to start running out of turrets to trade. And once this starts turning into inhibitor turrets and inhibitors that they're trading away, these trades won't be advantageous for them, even if they get favorable champion trades and they get more turrets. The Fiora is very quickly going to end, every turret outside of their base. And then once that happens, they're in a bit of a pickle.
It's very, very interesting that despite the fact that Team Crackin Open a Cold One is able to win the 4v4, the 4v5 team fights, they're ending up with some very disadvantageous trades because Monster, despite being 0-1-1, is able to pick up those towers, like you said. Meanwhile, Belkarama looking to get in. He is stunned up by the Jarsa Cocoon, followed by the Enchanted Crystal Era onto Zeta. So the Shockwave does go down and picks up Jarsa, followed by the Cataclysm onto Panda Blubber. But Jarvan does go down. Alpha trying to stay alive with potential for corruption. He is going to barely not be able to pick up Lord Ultra Titan. Type 2 Diabetes will be able to do so, but on the backside, Hana is able to pick up Monster, so it ends up being a 2 for 3 trade again in favor of Crackin Open a Cold One.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there in that 1v1 between Hanasung and Monster, but that's something that should never happen. At this point in the game, there's just no excuse for dying 1v1 to an Annie that has less items and less gold than you. So I'm not really clear on what happened, especially since you would think Monster with his flash up, and he's got the Merc Treads, and he's got the health from the Black Cleaver. That's a lot of defensive stats. There's no way this Annie should be able to burst you. So I'm not really sure how Hanasong actually managed to pick off Monster 1v1, maybe take some turret shots or something like that. But that's like, when that happens, that's a very good sign for Crackin Open a Cold One, because if like every time Monster dies, every single time he's set back, that buys them a huge amount of extra time. This time, that death there maybe buys them an extra 1 to 2 minutes before the Fiora becomes unstoppable. And every little bit of time counts. So in this situation, because all they need is a few extra minutes every single time, and they can keep winning these trades over and over again. And eventually they'll gain a gold lead, or eventually they'll gain a big objective off of these advantageous fights they can get. So sooner or later, if they can keep playing the way they're playing, they will eventually win out in this war of attrition. So I think a lot of this game is going to be on Monster to stop losing these fights, to stop getting caught out in side lanes, and stop getting caught with no TP or not TPing to these fights. And if he can manage to do that, or TP into a fight and be effective, then Rip ACVIUS will be able to take over this game. But until that happens, it's going to be Crackin Open a Cold One continuing to gain an advantage back in this game.
Yeah, and I did actually review that team fight between Hana and Monster, and what it turns out is that Monster just absolutely missed every single thing and also tanked 2 or 3 turret shots in the process.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it takes. So it's going to be hard for anyone to get that kind of a situation again where they actually kill Monster, but again, they don't really actually have to kill Monster. All they have to do is just make him ineffective by either forcing a fight where he's not there, or forcing a fight where he can't effectively TP, or he can't TP in time, or catch him out while the TP is not on cooldown, or catch his team out while the TP is on cooldown, something like that. So while that is great that that Hanasong could get the kill there, it's not actually necessary for the situation to be good for Crackin Open a Cold One.
I do see some posturing around this next Infernal Dragon. This is something they want. Jarsa getting awfully low. The charge comes in from Panda Blubber onto Monster. The Shockwave is only going to catch Panda Blubber. Hanasong is on the backside looking to pick up some stuff. Monster is flashing in, and he's got the parry. That was actually a pretty good parry, but he is stunned out. He's going to fall down. Belkarama is able to Cataclysm onto Lord Ultra Titan, though. So far, it's 1-for-1. Tibbers has fallen, which means the tank line consists of solely Panda Blubber. As Rip ACVIUS turns on to here, the Cocoon misses the flash in by Panda Blubber here. He's going to go in and pick up several kills, but Zeta is able to pick up Jarsa. Alpha's going to fall to Panda Blubber. Meanwhile, Zeta is still full health. He's going to be able to pick up Milkshake Mac. Belkarama picks up the Dragon, but then is able to kill Belkarama. Zeta is on a triple kill. This is the redemption against this Kled here, as he picks up the kill for the unofficial Quadra.
Yeah, so Zeta actually made the same mistake that I was talking about earlier, where he actually dismounted the Kled in a position where the only way he can die is to a pocket pistol. But it actually didn't end up mattering because Panda Blubber missed the pocket pistol anyway, so Zeta was able to pick up the kill. So a little bit of greed there, actually paying off on Zeta's part. So, sometimes it will pay off, sometimes it won't. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the Infernal Dragon goes over. A lot of people died, and the Infernal Dragon goes over to Rip ACVIUS. So big win for Rip ACVIUS there. Again, they're still sitting on this like 4K to 5K gold lead, which becomes less and less relevant as the game goes on. But picking up the Infernal is a really nice, a really nice big step towards getting control back over this game as the Chain of Corruption goes wide.
Nothing going to be really happening here as both teams pressure around, but the Shockwave does go down, proving me wrong. Thanks, Zeta. Jarsa is going to fall to Alpha. Now the jungler's down. If ACVIUS wanted to, they could posture around this Baron, but still 4v5. There is a lot of damage and a lot of CC that Team Cold Ones can put out. They don't necessarily want to deal with that at this moment, so they are going to push down this middle tower first. Maybe try and get another pick before they turn to Baron.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they didn't try and commit to that Baron, but I think they realized that Jarsa is really not a big part of the team fight for Crackin Open a Cold One here. So if they try and go into that Baron pit and if they get charged on by Skarl into the Wombo combo from Annie, when you're in that Baron pit and you can't avoid the Tibbers from Hanasong, that's a very dangerous position to put yourself in. So I definitely respect not going for it. But they're going to get charged on
Tibbers,
anyway.
Here's the charge, and Tibbers is going to follow in a moment, I believe. Red turret does fall there. No one's going down yet. Cataclysm almost completely annihilates Lord Ultra Titan, but the Monsoon saves him. Unmounted Kled is happening. Hanasong is Zanya's, but he's going to fall to Belkarama. Monster and Zeta are on the front line, absolutely decimating everyone, and that is going to be an ace for Team Rip ACVIUS. They're going to be able to pick up an inhibitor on this. Hell, they might be able to end.
I don't think they're going to be able to end without much of a wave coming in here, but they will be able to get the inhib. I think if they base very quickly here, they may even be able to grab the Baron off the plate. It looks like they're going to go for the Baron straight up, although the thing is here, Jarsa does have Mobies, and he will have Home Guard, so he might be able to make it in time, depending on how quickly they're able to do this Baron. They do have an Earthquake, though. So I think with the Earthdrake and with the Blast Cone getting them in the pit, about 4 to 5 seconds faster, there's no way that Jarsa will be able to make it in time. So they're just going to grab this Baron for free off the back of that inhibitor. They have top inhibitor down, so the world is kind of their oyster here for Rip ACVIUS. They can go top and push that wave in if they really want to. That's not going to be the great. They could go mid, they could go bottom. They've got a lot of options at this point. They could even really try and wait for the next dragon if they really want to, but I don't think that makes a ton of sense. Really, all they would need to do here is just kind of let their Fiora split push a lane, whether that's top or whether that's bottom or even mid. And then just send the other 4 members somewhere else. And then if they get initiated on by the Skarl or, ultimate or the Kled ultimate or the anti-flash Tibber, since the flash is coming up here for Hanasong in a second, they just allow their Fiora with Baron buff to take a tower, an inhib, a Nexus turret, something like that in response. So this is kind of a rough spot here for Crackin Open a Cold One.
They're looking to set up maybe some sort of a 1-3-1 here, depending on where Zeta ends up. Looks like Zeta is going to head for the mid lane, so it is a 4-1 setup, like you said. It's going to keep them relatively bottled up, especially with that inhibitor down in the top lane. This is the ideal kind of pushing situation that you want to see here. You have the top lane that's pushing in with the super minions of its own credit, and then Monster on Fiora in the bot lane, and the rest in the mid lane pushing as a group. This is the ideal pushing situation, and it's going to basically stretch cracking open a cold one as far as they possibly can to try and defend against this.
Yeah, this is the perfect setup too because Lord Ultra Titan had to go top. Although Monster is getting absolutely destroyed by Panda Blubber here, so that actually is probably going to stop the push for now until Monster can get some lifesteal.
As they take the inhibitor mid lane.
I feel like Panda Blubber should have just gone for a charge there while Monster was chunked out. I think that was the one opportunity for Crackin open a cold one to get a play back in this game. If they just let this third inhib go down, there's no way they're going to be able to pull this game off. So I feel like they just kind of laid over and died when they did have an opportunity to make a play through Panda Blubber. And it looks like Milkshake Mac is going to disconnect.
They're not going to pause, though, probably because they already understand that this game is a little bit one-sided. Flash ult by Hana-sung. Lord Ultra Titan also throws in the arrow, but will immediately fall down. Tendril, if Corruption goes down, the charge from Panda Blubber goes in, followed by the Redemption, but he's very, very low. Monsoon gets him out. Belkarama has fallen, but there still are 4 members. It's going to be up to Hana and Panda Blubber to really do something here.
Yeah, I don't really think there's much they can do here in this situation. They're against a team with Baron buff with 3 inhibs down, no Nexus turrets, their Nexus is exposed, and they don't have many people up, although Monster will be taken down by the Nexus laser there. Yeah, I mean, we saw kind of exactly what we were talking about where in the loading screen where Crackin open a cold one, they get some early advantages with this strong early pick composition. They get the solo kill in the mid lane with the Annie. This Elise was pretty effective at picking people off in the early game, but the Fiora, even though Monster made some misplays, eventually just outscaled everybody in the game really hard once he had 2 items, and even before he had 2 items was really being really effective in the split push. And it was kind of too much of an issue, along with the gold lead and the dragon lead for Rip ACVIUS. They were able to just kind of take out the game.
It's pretty good game all around. Stay with us. We're going to take a short break and then come back for game 2. See if Crackin open a cold one can crack open their opponent here. We'll have to see how it goes. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, and people pretending to be ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Game 2 of this series between Crackin Open a Cold One and Rip Cracking Open a Cold... No, Rip ACVIUS. That's them.
Close enough.
Yeah, Rip close enough. Anyway, we're back. We did see Game 1 there. For those of you that missed it, it was a fairly close game until the late game started to rear its ugly head, in which case Rip ACVIUS did start to pull ahead. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, that is well, I mean, I wouldn't say there was no real advantage for Crackin Open a Cold One. They were actually down in gold for most of the game, but they were getting an advantage in the engagements for the most part, even when they were down in gold. But then eventually the Fiora from Monster got to a point where it was kind of unstoppable, and then at that point, once you could team fight with the 2-item spike, it was kind of over, especially once there was a particular fight where finally there was no insane Kled into Annie combo from Panda Blubber and Hanasong. And you can see here the Annie was banned out from Hanasong, and it was really effective. So I'm not surprised to see that. And it would not be surprising to me to see the Kled banned out on the other side as well, just because the Kled was really effective, even though they did hard counterpick it in lane.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that they are actually going to get that Fiora banned out there for Team Crackin Open a Cold One. I think that's an effective choice, despite the fact that, well, there's the Kled.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Kled was more or less contained in the early game by the Fiora, and despite the fact that Kled did reasonably well despite being in a counter matchup, both of these champions, I think, are best left out of the game when discussing these two teams.
Yeah, I think the one thing is that the Fiora ban kind of forces the Kled ban, because without the Fiora, just imagine how oppressive that Kled would have been if he wasn't just getting destroyed in lane 1v1, because the Kled ultimates were so effective in those skirmishes and in those team fights that, imagine that if the Kled had, 20, 30 more CS when he was starting out doing that, if he had, an extra, 200, 300 gold at the start, and then was able to continue farming up and was able to actually lane in a side lane, like, the Kled would have been so much more effective. So if you ban the Fiora, the Kled ban has to come out. So that would have been a lot more effective in this situation if Crackin Open a Cold One was actually on red side again, because then they would have been able to control whether they wouldn't have been able to decide on the Fiora ban or not based on whether Kled was open. So unfortunately, they kind of just trade one ban for one, whereas they could have gotten essentially a free ban if they were on the other side. But that's okay. They still end up getting the Zac, which is probably the best champion in the game on this patch. The Zac is pretty outrageous right now. Tank jungler that can engage from range, is incredibly tanky, does a ton of damage, has a lot of CC, kind of does it all right now. So not surprising to see it first picked. The Graves and the Karma, a lot of priority on the Karma here for Rip ACVIUS. So coming out again as their early pick. So that is good to see, since the Karma is, again, like I said, quite strong on this patch. And the Lulu and the Ahri here. Not too surprising picks. Worth noting, Lulu has a lot of synergy with Zac and Ahri, since they can both go in and get that sweet wild growth ultimate for the knockup. So that's nice to see. And the Zed counter pick to the Ahri, they don't want to get that banned out, so Zed is just going to show his counter pick right now, and then we're going to go into ban phase 2.
Zeta on Zed. Zeta on Zed. Lots of Z's happening right there. One thing I want to ask while we're waiting to see these bans cut down, like Kog'Maw there, get those hyper carries away from Lord Ultra Titan. He did amazingly on the Ashe. Don't want to see him on an even stronger ADC, especially with the Juggernaut comp building around that Lulu. One thing I want to ask you, what exactly does make Zac so good on this patch in particular? Because all the things you listed off, he was able to do before this patch. So what exactly brings him here?
The big difference between Zac on this particular patch as opposed to the patches before, like the earlier patches after the tank rework, was his damage was substantially increased. The big thing was that not on this patch, not on 7.11, but on 7.10, his Q was given a 2.5% maximum HP ratio for the damage, which means that essentially, he does substantially more damage. Now, the flat damage on it was reduced to compensate, but overall, this means that his damage is overwhelmingly more relevant throughout the game. And at the same time, his CC was actually increased, because on 7.10, with the knockup the knock-up duration on his E was before after the rework. It was just half a second at all at all points of the game. Now the way it is on live in 7.10 and 7.11 is the duration actually scales from half a second to a full second based on how long you charge the slingshot. So Zach got more damage and more CC. So now he essentially has more crowd control and he does substantially more damage. Particularly the big change I think is he does a lot more damage with that stretching strikes from the Q. So it's really difficult to deal with him because there's just not really an opening where he's super weak, except for in the very early game. But even if you shut him down in the early game, he still will get very strong because he really doesn't need that many items to get to be this tanky beast in the late game. As we're seeing a Camille here for the top lane, Panda Blubber picking the Camille blind. Very interesting to see that, since Camille really isn't very strong on this patch. She's been nerfed so many times, again and again, that it's kind of surprising to me to see her at all. But it is worth noting, of course, has a lot of synergy with strong ganking junglers with like the Zac. Camille, above all else, even after all the nerfs, the best thing she does is set up ganks. So
Yasuo.
Yeah, and into the Yasuo, you're still going to be able to set up a gank on that pretty easily. Yasuo is a melee range champion that has to be in melee range of his enemy to do anything relevant. So the Camille Zac 2v2 here will beat the Yasuo Graves 2v2. So maybe this Camille pick is saying Panda Blubber and Jarsa do want to just set up the tent in top lane and 2v2 this out.
That's definitely a good intuition there. I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I'm not entirely sure what Rip ACVIUS is going for with this team comp. It has no real tank. Graves, Belkarama's Graves can get a little tanky, but it's not going to be anything like what this Zac and this Camille are going to be able to do. So, especially with a Lulu pumping them up. So that's kind of interesting. Beyond that, though, I do want to comment a little bit on, in particular, on this Yasuo. I was talking about this, or I saw a post about it on Reddit and was thinking about it myself, about how Yasuo's matchups are very, very polarizing. He either does really, really well or really, really bad, and I feel like this is going to be one of those really, really bad situations.
Well, Yasuo does win this lane 1v1 into the Camille. I mean, very few champions lose 1v1 to Camille. But the thing with Camille is you kind of have to expect when you see a Camille on the enemy team, it's not a 1v1 lane. Because the whole point of picking Camille, as opposed to something like another split pusher like a Fiora who's banned this game, but like a Jax or an Aurelia, something like that, where you can go like 2 to 3 damage items and try and split push the whole game. The reason you pick Camille over those other champions, because Camille in this patch is much worse than something like a Jax or a Fiora, right? Like, the reason you pick Camille is if you want to set up ganks for your jungler, because Camille has better CC than all those other champions combined. With the hook shot and with the Hextech ultimatum, she can just enable your jungler to get in quick and easy and just get free kills 24/7 in the top lane. So the only reason to pick Camille is to set up those ganks, or if you have someone who's particularly experienced on it, who only plays the champion, if they've constrained champion pool, something like that. But it is worth noting here, this is a Zac, a full tank champion, into an all AD comp, and a Camille who is going to get a Titanic Hydra and usually a Triforce, but then we'll buy a full tank after that. And these champions are both going to be stacking a bunch of armor. Even the Ahri is probably going to be able to getting into early Zonias, and that's going to be really effective here. This is an all AD comp here from Rip ACVIUS, and if they don't manage to get a substantial early lead, I don't know if they're going to be able to win the game. This is kind of a reverse of the last game where Rip ACVIUS is on a serious timer here, whereas in the other game, it was cracking open a cold one that was on a hard timer against the Fiora. Once the Fiora got to a certain number of items, there's not really much they could do. It's the other way around here, where once the Zac hits like 3-4 items, how do you ever kill him? No one in your team is going to do any damage to a full tank, full armor Zac at the at a late point in the game. So this could go really badly. This pick and ban is a very, very, very risky thing to take. It's kind of a win lane, win game kind of situation where if Rip ACVIUS doesn't win every lane, or at least go even and win some lanes, they may not be able to pull this game off at all.
I got 3 words for you. Full AP Karma.
Yeah, the thing with Karma, it's not like the Zyra where she's got a lot of damage ratios and she's really dangerous, as a threatening champion with like the items like the Leandra's Torment or the Rylai's.
Yes.
If the Karma does go AP, I don't even think that's necessarily a bad idea for the Karma to pick up some AP in this game, but it's not going to be something that's threatening enough that Panda Blubber or Jarsa are going to be buying Magic Resist, or anyone on the team here besides maybe Milkshake Mac picking up like a Locket or something like that. There's not going to be any MR items coming out. Whereas with the Zyra, I would say, okay, I understand your Zyra is going to be going Eye of the Watchers into Leandries, into Rylai's, and then suddenly you're looking at a situation where, okay, maybe the Zac needs to get a Spirit Visage, maybe the Camille needs to get, like a Stone Plate or something like that. In this situation, no, they're not going to buy any Magic Resist. It's a full AD comp for sure, even if the Karma buys ability power.
And we've managed to talk the whole way through the spectator delay here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend like we're going to take a break. We're going to note down all the keystones so we can actually talk about them this time. And then we'll be back in just a couple seconds as the Rift loads in. Stay with us.
Down Auckland Street, where shadows wander, they sweep the walls, they crawl and crawl to kiss the lights. A woman wonders where's the crowd. The clock reads night, yet she's still out. She peeks the dark and sees but black. As she walks, they creep and crawl. They creep and crawl. They creep and crawl. Oh, they creep and crawl. They creep and crawl. They creep and crawl in the dark. As she walks, they creep and crawl.
All right, folks, we're into game for this game 2 here of Team Crackin Open a Cold One versus Team Rip ACVIUS. Can't you guys just choose normal names for your teams every once in a while? It makes it so much harder to remember. Anyway, so we did get a look at the keystones here in the pregame loading screen. All the names are the same people. I'm sure you can figure out who's who. Anyway, I want to talk about 2 in particular that surprised me. Would be the Fervor Battle on the Camille there, and also the other one I forgot. So let's talk about the Fervor Battle on the Camille.
All right. Well, I would say the most surprising keystones here to me are actually the Thunderlords on the Graves, which is not really standard. You typically see the Storm Raiders these days. The Thunderlord's a little better for early pressure, but doesn't scale nearly as well. And then the other one is the Thunderlords on the Lulu, which is normally just used for lane pressure, but I'm kind of surprised to see it into Lucian Karma, which is a lane you're going to lose no matter what as the Ashe Lulu anyway. So I feel like going Wind Speakers as more of a defensive choice would make more sense. But maybe, Milkshake Mac is saying, as a bit of a disrespect, he's saying, okay, we're in an unfavorable matchup. We're going to win it anyway. I'm going to take the Thunderlords and we're going to win. The Fervor on the Camille is a bit more of a standard choice. It's typically what you do see. Now, maybe in this matchup, you might be saying, okay, maybe the Grasp would be better in the matchup against the Yasuo, go a little bit more defensive. But even then, the Fervor gives you so much extra damage in the mid to late game that I feel like not taking Fervor is just going to seriously hurt your ability to split push late game if you do manage to get a lead. So I think the Fervor makes a lot of sense here for the Camille. So every other mastery is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. So, Thunderlords in mid lane, Curse of Colossus on the Zac, and Fervor on the Yasuo, and so on and so forth.
All right, works for me. One thing I do want to mention here is that Jarza is actually the coach for the team he is playing against right now. So this comp may be just a dig at him to say, hey, look at all we've learned from you being coached by you. Aren't we great? So that may or may not be something going on here. That's a lot of damage from a level 1. Holy crap.
Yeah, that
level 1 E.
That Lulu with the Thunderlords, like I said, it does perform substantially better in lane than the Wind Speakers. The Wind Speaker scales better, but especially when this level 2 comes out from the Lulu and he gets the Thunderlords, is Milkshake Mac gonna go take a lot of damage.
Yeah,
but
that's gonna be an Ignite burn here, as well as a heal.
a lot of trading going on, a lot of blinking health bars here on the side of Crackin Open a Cold One, but
sorry about that, my client bugging out there.
That's okay. I can handle this. So we're seeing Hannah Song going for the trade. Oh, okay, great.
We're good. We're good.
All right. So mostly we're looking at pretty even CS numbers at this point. Nothing too exceptional. Lots of potions being burned in the bottom lane. 3 summoners down in total across the board. Worth noting that there still is a flash by Lord Ultra Titan as we're seeing Panda Blubber get taken down a little low here, but the Zac from Jarza is here, but misses the stretching strikes and might actually end up going down to Monster.
Well, I mean, there's that. The tornado does take him down.
The biggest disaster. I'm gonna hold on. You talk about this bot lane trade. Well, I'm gonna go take a look
there's
at
going to be a Mantra Q there. Soul Flare coming out. Lord Ultra Titan very, very low. The power spikes are absolutely ridiculous for Lucian. I mean, this has been something we know for all time, but every time I see a Lucian again, I've just remembered every time he levels up, he just gets so much more powerful. But yeah, that was a fun little situation in the top lane there. Monster definitely showing what he's learned as he takes down his coach.
I did go back and look at that trade in the top lane to see exactly what happened, because it looked like Monster should have gone down. What happened was Panda Blubber actually used his empowered second half of the Q on a minion. And that is why Monster did not go down. The empowered Q from the Camille, the Precision Protocol, would have instantly killed Monster, and both Jarsa and Panda Blubber would have gone out alive. And that is a critical misplay, because that's the difference between a 1-for-0 first blood in favor of Crackin Open a Cold One and a double kill for the Yasuo, a champion that's already in a good matchup, and he's just gonna kind of take over this lane now. Even if Jarsa is able to get up there in the future, Monster's just gonna have such lane dominance 1v1 that it's gonna be really difficult for Panda Blubber to get anything done from this point on in the laning phase. He's down so much in terms of golden itemization that I just don't know if they're gonna be able to recover this top lane at this point, even if Jarsa continues going up there heavily.
Yeah, it's definitely a good situation for Monster here, to say nothing of what's going on. And I want to mention here that this, kids, is why Riot actually implemented that little feature that says abilities only target champions.
Yeah,
so that might be something that Panda Blubber might want to look into.
That's the Thunderlords from Lulu, by the way. Alpha,
yes.
Alpha going quite low there. Without the Thunderlords, that would not have been nearly as much damage. As we're seeing Monster with the double buffs, playing pretty far up. As he can do, since he is quite strong with that zeal. Has a pink ward. This is what you see on red side top lane when you get really far ahead. You can put that pink ward in the river and just establish complete vision dominance over your lane. With the ward over the wall, he's even protected from Zac ganks, which are normally very difficult to defend yourself against. But when you have the vision ward in the river, you don't need to spend your regular ward in the river. So then you can spend your normal trinket ward over the wall to defend yourself from the Zac. And I think Jarsa has recognized, okay, that lane, we can't really do anything there. I'm just going to ignore that, be bottom side. As you can see, he's taking over that Scryer's Bloom there in the bottom side, and maybe looking for a bottom lane play here. But Zed is actually already here with ultimate, and he's going to turn back to the mid lane, though, and they will spot out Jarsa. Level 4, he's pretty far behind from dying there in the top lane and losing his passive.
Now, there is a little bit of contention here in chat about the matchup of Camille and Yasuo, and you've said a couple times now that Yasuo is the stronger one in this lane. As we do see the directed camera give us a little bit of a talk there, Zeta and Jarsa meeting up in the river. Not a whole lot going to go down between the two of them. Can you give us a little bit of an in-depth more as to what the matchup is like for these two champions and why you believe that Yasuo is a bit stronger as Zeta gets hit by the charm but walks out?
So the issue with the Camille versus Yasuo matchup is with Camille, in this kind of matchup, this is the kind of matchup that before all the nerfs, Camille players would actually max W, and then you could take really bad trades, and with the max W, you simply W the wave, and hopefully your lane opponent as well, and then sustain back up, because Yasuo doesn't have any innate sustain, and because of his need to get crit itemization early on, he can't build lifesteal. So until several items in, probably 2 to 3 items in, he can't buy lifesteal, right? So it's kind of an issue where the Camille, even though you'll lose trades, you would have the sustain advantage, and that would give you your advantage in lane. However, now two things have happened to make this a much worse strategy. First of all, in that particular, in this exact matchup, not necessarily Camille versus, a strong AD carry type champ, well, not AD carry, but a strong melee carry type champion, Yasuo is too mobile to be hit by Camille's W on a regular basis, so that was never a good strategy against Yasuo in the first place. Secondarily, the heal on Camille's W against minions has been removed, which makes it so that you can't actually get sustained through that pattern, which is why Camille kind of fell out of the meta. That matchup pattern, which is what made her so strong, especially against tanks where you could sustain out through the lane, is no longer an option because the W doesn't give you any sustain, that tactical sweep. doesn't give you sustain unless you hit the enemy champion. In Yasuo, that's not possible because Yasuo is too mobile to be hit by the W regularly, especially on that outer zone. So it's very, 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 very difficult to play this matchup as the Camille, and there's really not a lot you can do in any matchup as Camille right now without your jungler, just because she's so weak as a champion in the 1v1 in almost every lane matchup. So,
as she deserves to be.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense in some respects because she's basically the best champion in the game at setting up jungle ganks, right? So she has to be, she can't necessarily win 1v1s on a regular basis, because if she did, obviously she'd be broken like she was when she was originally released. So you're seeing a huge item mismatch here at this point, Phantom Dancer versus a Sheen and a Longsword. So regardless of who actually wins the lane, there's really no hope against a champion that's this far down to a Yasuo with a Phantom Dancer. So realistically speaking, there's not much you can do at this point, unless Monster makes some like unfortunate plays and like tower dives and takes like 3 to 4 turret shots, something like that. There's not much that Panda Blubber can do at this point, regardless of how well he plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really just comes down to the fact that Monster is ahead. Now, even if this lane had been even, he would still have had a majority advantage in this lane. You can say that, Camille has her own mobility and has the ability to get in on Yasuo, but even with that ability, Camille doesn't have the burst anymore. So she wouldn't even be able to stop Yasuo before Yasuo just styles all over her face, which brings an interesting image to mind. But anyway.
Yep, I mean, there's a lot you can say about that matchup, and it's something that I've played extensively. I personally played Camille a lot when she was first released, and that was a time when Yasuo top lane was very popular. I'm pretty experienced in the matchup, so I'm very familiar with what happens when you try and, even especially against really great, really skilled Yasuo players, it's very difficult to even hit a hook shot, because hook shot as a skill actually isn't as fast as people seem to think. Hookshot's actually quite a bit slower than Yasuo's sweeping blade, his dash. So in respect to how far the travel time is, because you have to travel to the wall and then back out. So it's very easy for Yasuo, if he's near minions, to actually never get hit by the hookshot at all as well. So there's just a lot of small micro things that make the matchup extremely difficult for Camille, and that's why when you see this kind of setup on the side of on a Camille matchup in a Camille lane, you just kind of expect the jungler to go there, but once the jungler messes up the lane matchup like that, there's not much that can be done, and Mandalore is going to go down here.
Yeah, you can just see the dominance that...
Oh, wow!
Ooh.
The W sustain actually dodges out there and is able to pick it up. A bit of overconfidence there for Monster, overcommitting on the turret and then not flashing out there.
Flash the mastery symbol.
Going down to Belkrama's collateral damage there, though.
Yep, that's what it comes down to here. Alpha going in on Lord Ultra Titan. He has the culling. That is going to be the heal burn. Lord Ultra Titan is going to walk upriver to join his team at this dragon. Zeta is going to contest, as is Alpha and Type 2 Diabetes. There might not be too much they're going to be able to do, especially... Oh, that could have been bad. That was a terrible spike by
17 HP on that dragon. That could have gone over to the other side very, 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 very easily. That could have easily been a steal.
This is not how you coach. Anyway,
that was sort of a bit of an oopsie there, but ends up being okay just because nothing goes over. As Type 2 Diabetes getting a lot of damage here, zoning the bottom lane away. Titan's gonna go through, but I don't think this is a good idea. That was a very dangerous play, but
there goes the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Type 2 Diabetes is getting caught. He is going to have to flash out. Alpha is caught. That's let bounce. He is going to fall, despite the tower not hitting him. He's actually going to go down to Milkshake Mac. Not exactly where you want the kill to go, but the assist does go over to Lord Ultra Titan. So the gold is still more or less given over. There's still about a 200 gold in favor of Alpha, as Milkshake Mac barely makes it out after that very nice Soul Flare.
Yeah, that's a good example of how annoying the Zac can be on this patch, just because, as we're seeing Graves gank in the mid lane, but how annoying Zac can be on this patch just because it's really difficult.
Panda Blower actually doing a fair bit of damage to Monster here in the top lane, getting the drop on him more than anything else.
The short trades should favor Panda Blubber. The key is that Monster needs to be dodging out away from the secondary Q from Panda, but he's not doing that. He's kind of just face tanking it, I expect, because he thinks, oh, I'm really strong, I'm really far ahead. Exactly what happened when he went under the turret, where he gets overconfident, he commits to the trade, and then Panda Blubber is able to escape before Monster can, get his full damage out. As Panda Blubber is going to go for an ultimate here, and Zeta's kind of stuck.
That was a very interesting ult there. He does actually try to flash to get away, but the final stab from the scissor legs takes him down. I'm not exactly sure what the flash was there for. I guess he was trying to go over the wall, but wasn't able to make it over because the Hextech ultimatum had already procced.
I believe what happened was he was not close enough to the wall to flash over it. That wall is particularly thick, so you can't actually just instantly flash over it while being not completely next to it, essentially on top of it.
Diabetes actually rooting up Milkshake Mac. That's going to cause a flash there. Alpha on point, keeping an eye on exactly where his support is and what his support is doing.
All summoners down in the bottom lane as well. This is a ripe opportunity for ganks on both sides, although, of course, you kind of expect the Zac ganks to be a lot more effective, especially at this point in the game, since the Zac does bring substantially more crowd control, and since there is the Ashe here from Lord Ultra Titan, there is a chance that, just the Zac comes in, sits in the Fog of War, maybe under the turret or something on a pink ward here, maybe like Milkshake Mac is just placed down, and the Zac just comes in. He's coming in, but he misses.
That's going to be a polymorph onto Zeta, followed by the stretching strikes. It's going to root up some people from Type 2 diabetes. Not a whole lot's going to come down.
The elastic slingshot there missing was actually a really big deal for that situation. If the elastic slingshot hit onto Zeta there, he's probably dead. He had no flash and his W was on cooldown, so kind of have to expect that would have been the end of him. As again, like I keep saying, we keep seeing Monster get hit by the tactical sweep from Panda Blubber. That should never happen in this matchup.
Well, to be fair, he didn't have any minions to jump to in that particular instance.
Yeah, and in that particular case, it didn't matter because he had his shield up and he was at full HP. But that's the kind of situation where, for example, when he went down, when he got solo killed, that's why he died. And this is where Monster should be able to take advantage of it if he's able to dodge the Q. Yep, there we go. Oh, he flashed away, and I don't think that was a good idea.
Here comes Jarsa.
Flashed away to essentially lower his own DPS, because in that situation, he's the one with attack speed purchased. He's the one that's doing more damage when they're simply auto-attacking each other. So it doesn't make a ton of sense to flash out there. He should just hold his flash and flash after Panda, and then Panda will die every time. And because he flashed out, Jarsa was able to get in there and just pick him off. So another big mistake here from Monster. And even though he did get that early double kill, he is falling behind even in a favorable matchup. So I'm not a big fan of the pick if you're not going to be, if you're not going to be ultra aware of what's going on. Is Song getting a little bit of damage, but does dodge the shurikens there, so that is nice.
Yeah, this is really going to come. This mid lane's been kind of quiet here, and this is really going to come down to who can pop off the most come mid game. Because both of these champions are very snowbally, dependent on kills. We'll have to see how that fares for them.
It is worth noting, of course,
picking up defensive items.
Ahri did get nerfed on the last patch. We're seeing an arrow come out here onto the Lucian.
That's going to be a catch here. That is Wild Growth going down. Alpha is going to fall despite using his heal. Bit of a misstep by him, recalling in a place where he had not a lot of sight there, and that's going to be Zeta actually dodging the Let's Bounce with his ultimate. He's going to be able to pop Hana, but now here comes Panda Blubber. He is going to go down as the Scissor Legs again picks him up, but he at least was able to get a kill on the backside in the form of that Ahri, so not exactly a worthless trade.
Yeah, and there's a pattern here. Exactly what happened both games, which is where Panda Blubber gets hard counterpicked in his own lane, and then he's able to somehow, despite losing, being extremely far behind in CS, he's down 50 CS in this game already. Despite being extremely far behind in CS and falling super far behind early in the game, he's able to make a lot of really successful roam plays. Again, with another roam to mid that actually ends up paying off because Jarsa did kind of whiff his ultimate there. That Let's Bounce getting dodged by the ultimate from Zeta, the Death Mark. And Jarsa, I don't think he actually wants this fight against Kurama, but again, the same thing is happening where, Panda Blubber falls behind. His roams are making up for it, though, and he's going to be in a point where in this game, because it's not the Fiora, he may actually be able to 1v1 once he hits a certain item threshold. If he does itemize the full, against the full AD comp, like I was talking about, that may be the point of contention in this game where the Fiora essentially doesn't, gets to a point where she can't be 1v1 no matter what items you build. That doesn't happen with Yasuo. Yasuo, if you buy some items like Randuin's and Ninja Tabby, which you can see Panda Blubber's already started with the Ninja Tabby, you can actually 1v1 him late in the game as Camille. So this is a situation where maybe Panda Blubber can pull this out in the late game, even though he's falling super far behind in CS.
And that is, we're going to have to watch and see. We're going to have to keep an eye on Panda Blubber to see how he plays this game going forward here. The Randuin's pickup will certainly help him once he finishes this Trinity Force. I imagine he is going to go ahead and pick that up once Trinity does come through, considering it is an all AD comp he is facing. But he seems to be holding off the minion wave fairly adroitly at the moment. There's a dragon fight brewing here.
Yeah,
the blue team is looking to take it. Zeta's going to go straight in. He is exhausted, but he's going to go right onto Lord Ultra Titan with his ultimate. That is going to end up being a kill. Enchanted Crystal Arrow does not matter. Lucian actually falling to Hana Sung on this Ari. Belkarama getting hit up by Jarsa on this Zac, but they're still chasing. This may be a bit... No, they're just going to all back off now. It ended up being a trade of 1-for-1. Dragon does go over to Team Crackin a Cold One.
Type 2 diabetes is really low. We're calling on a ward. I don't think he's going to know that he's going to go down. So, kind of an unfortunate back there from Type 2 by diabetes, giving up over a free kill after all was said and done. Kind of unfortunate, and that is going to help the gold lead get a little bit closer towards back into even. It's not really that far apart at this point, about a difference of 1,000 gold, which really isn't much, not that relevant. So the 2 dragons in favor of Crackin Open a Cold One will certainly help, although, not like last game where it's Infernals and Earth Dragons. This is the more utility dragons rather than the combat dragons. The Ocean, quite nice at this point in the game, but the Air Dragon, not super exciting, although I do think it's, maybe a little bit underrated. It's not spectacular by any means.
It's definitely better than most people think. I had a very, very long and intricate discussion with a fellow caster about this and actually started a meme of my own in the process. Zeta going a bit ham there. He is going to eat a couple arrows in his face and then back off here. Meanwhile, Monster and Hana are now in the bot lane.
Yeah, I don't think this is what Crackin Open a Cold One wants. The Ahri has a really hard time laning against a champion like Yasuo. The Windwall can completely block off the charm, so that's a really big problem, especially since this is an Infinity Edge. This is a 100% crit Infinity Edge Yasuo with a lifesteal item as well now. So what is this? Oh, okay, Jarsa keeps missing his...
Jarsa misses the Alexis Glyn shot. He's going to get rooted, and then his passive pops.
Let's bounce.
Let's bounce into Wild Growth. Actually keeps Jarsa alive. Now Hana is on the backside. He does manage to get the charm onto Zeta, and he's going to Spirit Rush in. Monster is able to pick up a tower on the backside, but now Panda Blubber's coming in with the whole Hextech Ultimatum onto Belkara. Belkara is going to fall, but Panda Blubber will return the kill. It is 1-for-1. Now Monster's on the backside here.
Monster's on the
this is not
wrong
very,
side
very
of town.
good. He is going to fall down to the combined damage everywhere. Going a bit too ham.
I mean, that's kind of the story of the game for Monster. It's just, he gets his big lead, and then he kind of puts himself in a bad spot, and then dies for free. That's happened 3 times in a row now. So, okay, I guess maybe not free every time. One time he did get first turret blood. So, but a death, essentially a needless death. And Zeta's going to get charmed, and I think he's dead. Yeah, he's down, but that is a
Zeta's going to go down, and that's going to be Lord Ultra Titan going down in return, but the tower is still picked up by Crackin a Cold One, so that's 2-2 towers now. They are still slightly behind in gold, despite again being up in kills, and this time being up in dragons as well. But it is only about 1,000 gold, so it's not that big of a deal considering we are 20 minutes in.
Yeah, that 1,000 gold lead is essentially entirely on Monster. That's the lead that Monster has over Panda Blubber. He's actually about 1,300 gold up, whereas in other areas, Crackin Open a Cold One is ahead, like on the support position, for example. Milkshake has a pretty big lead. Not that that's a huge deal, but support leads are actually a much bigger deal in the current meta than they have been in past years. In seasons
because redemption and such.
Yeah, Redemption and Locket are just such powerful itemization. So getting, like, right now, for example, Milkshake Mac has a Redemption to no Redemption from type 2 diabetes. That is probably more relevant than a little bit of itemization in mid lane or in the jungle, for example. Like, that extra Redemption can win team fights by itself, as we're seeing Lord Ultra Titan probably going down here.
Yeah, that is going to be an Enchanted Crystal Arrow used, followed by a Flash and a heal, but it still is not enough to save him. Even the Redemption used, but of course, Redemption not quick enough to save you from a Zed ult. Even if you put it down as soon as the Zed ult comes in, still will only hit after the Zed ult pops. Monster actually getting stunned up by Panda Blubber here. Nothing going to come of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting there, because I think if the we might see
Meanwhile, Ana's here.
Charm. Yeah, but if the Redemption had come out early enough there, I think that may have been a situation where Zeta probably would have gone down, or at the very least not been able to get the kill, because he would have had the ultimate out, take that shadow back, and the heal would have come in, because the Redemption actually there, had it hit him, would have killed him, right?
Yeah.
So in that situation, had the Redemption come a little earlier, it actually probably could have, turned that 1v1, that 1v1 play with the death mark. But it doesn't really matter that much, as we're seeing Monster is probably going to go down here to the 2v1.
Yeah, he is getting awfully low already. That's just going to be a straight-up kill for Panda Blubber. But what he's doing here is he is causing some pressure in the bot lane to allow the rest of his team to dance towards this Baron, but is it enough to justify it?
No, because the Scuttle Crab has already gone the way of Crackin Open a cold one. So just like I said, Camille's the best champion in the game at setting up ganks. Very, 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 very difficult to avoid that. And in that situation, Panda Blubber didn't even use the Hextech ultimatum. He didn't need to, because Jarsa hit that Elastic Slingshot. That
Jarsa going to take a little bit of
damage. The TP is
damage.
coming in here from Panda Blubber. He's going for the play in the back line.
Wild Growth goes down. Belcara is already at half health. Type 2 diabetes is going to fall as well. Zeta, meanwhile, is dueling with Jarsa. Probably not where he wants to be in this situation, though the rest of the team isn't coming over to help him. So that's actually going to be a death mark to again dodge that let's bounce. But he does follow it anyway. That is going to be a passive pop. But Milkshake Mac is here, so this probably means that Zeta will end up going down, as does Belcarama. No, that's Stretching Strike will get him.
The slow. Jarsa doesn't have any follow-up damage, but he's got the Whimsy. He will get sped up, and he will get that Unstable Matter on him. So huge team fight, a huge win across the map. Not even a team fight win. Huge wins across the map for Crackin Open a cold one. They've actually broken open this game, and now they are in the gold lead. They are in the driver's seat here. They're up about 1,000 gold. They're going to get more off of this turret as well. And they are now up 4 turrets taken to 2, and they're taking an extra dragon. And once they get double ocean, it's really difficult to get any relevant poke damage down. It's really difficult to deal with, Baron pressure, because you can just start the Baron, and then the Ocean Drakes will regen you back up if you back off of it. So the double ocean is really intimidating. Double ocean, kind of like double cloud, works really well in multiples, as Lord Ultra Titan probably should have just tried to go for that base there and shouldn't have canceled.
Monster does miss the tornado, but he does fall down.
Yeah, I don't really know why Lord Ultra Titan canceled that base, because if you cancel your base, you're 100% dead. If you don't cancel the base, there's at least a chance that he doesn't check the bush. And yeah. I think actually Monster wouldn't have checked the bush, as we're seeing a instant Baron start here from Rip ACVIUS, and I don't think that anyone's going to check this. Milkshake Mac is in the area, so he's going to find it out, and they are going to back off. Okay, so nice play by Milkshake Mac, but he may die for it.
He may go down here, but on the same side, he does have his ultimate, but Zeta is able to hit him. Alpha does fall in return. Zeta does pick up a tower, though, so it's 1 kill in return for 1 kill and a tower. So a bit of a good trade there by Rip ACVIUS. Nothing too major, though. Zeta, you gotta want to be careful. You know Zach's in the area.
Yeah, and we're actually seeing a pretty offensive build here from Panda Blubber, which makes sense because he's actually fairly fed now. He's got, instead of the Titanic Hydra, which is fairly standard, we're seeing the Ravenous Hydra, which is more of a split pushing build and less of a team fighting build. The thing is, in this situation, I can understand going for more damage because you have the Zac, you have the ultimate team fight tank on this patch, so you don't necessarily need to be as tanky. You can let the Zac go in first. And I'd also like to point out right now, take a look at the 3rd item slot from the right for Crackin Open a Cold One here. I think they've all got their itemization down here. That's 5 Ninja Tabbies on the side of the blue team.
And they're even synchronized in the same spot, which is very nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so efficient here. And this is what I was talking about where Rip ACVIUS is just on such a timer in this game because their champions are just doing so much less damage than you would expect in this kind of situation.
Monster going in on Panda here. He's actually doing a fair bit of damage now that he's got the ult up. Now, one thing to note here about Yasuo is that when he does finally hit Last Breath, his ultimate, it does mean that he gets some armor penetration relative to, I believe, the armor that the opponent has. So that's pretty good here. However, Belkarama, gonna go down. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow does go a bit wide. Zeta looking to maybe go in, but he sees the rest of the team come around. It's like, no thanks. Meanwhile, Monster is pushing the inhibitor tower now.
This is a bit of an issue because once the split pusher, your split pusher in a risky 1v1 matchup loses the split push battle, you can lose a lot, especially when your AD carry also gets chunked at the same time. So this is a really dangerous spot now because now the Yasuo has a point where if he does kill or pressure out Panda Blubber in the 1v1, he's going to have access to an open inhibitor. So that was a really big play there from Monster, even though he's messed up a lot this game where he's gotten killed 1v1 or just gotten collapsed on by Jarsa and Bulber and just killed. That play by itself forgives a lot of his mistakes because now there's a lot of pressure for Rip ACVIUS in the side lane, and one of the main ways they can come back into this game, even though they're on a timer as an all-AD comp, is split push. But if this Baron does go over, it would be a big problem.
Zeta is here, but he is a bit far forward. He is going to ult on to Lord Ultra Titan. That is going to force Lord... Oh, no, it's not going to force him back. Now it's up to the three-man squad here to see what they can do.
Zoning.
Just
zoning and getting the Baron.
Zoning, they're going to be able to pick this Baron up. There's nothing that the team can do here, though Alpha is going to try and steal, but the culling is not able to pick it up. Belkarama not able to steal it with the ultimate. However, Monster is about halfway through this inhibitor. He may be able to get it. Yeah, he will be able to get it before anyone's able to get onto him. He does have GA as well, so even if he gets put on here by Panda Blubber, he is going to come back alive and waste even more time to allow his team to regroup on the back foot. And he's going to go back in with the Last Breath and pick up Panda Blubber before he goes down. He was dead either way, so really nice by him to be able to pick up a kill on the return.
Yeah, unfortunate thing here is that now, yes, they got a 1-for-1 when the enemy team had Baron. Yes, they got an inhibitor, and both those things are great, but Monster loses his GA, and he goes down as the by far the most relevant member of Rip ACVIUS in a situation where everyone, 4 members of Crackin Open a Cold One have Baron. And in this particular scenario, you could just see plays like this where Jarsa could just go in. And
Zeta's getting exhausted. He's going to try and get out alive now. He is going to manage to get away here. Excuse me. As Belkarama and Lord Ultra Titan try to duke it out in the bot lane. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow did miss there.
Well, Belkarama actually flashed it, so that's a pretty big win for Lord Ultra Titan. That's going to be coming up pretty soon. And once that Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes back up, Belkarama is not going to have the flashback. Monster's now spawned, but he doesn't have TP. And without that split push lane, to access no open inhib, he's going to have a hard time being effective because in these team fights, he's just going to get CC'd and killed instantly. So it's just going to be hard for Monster to be effective unless he can continue getting those nice split push plays like he was, or if Crackin Open a Cold One commits to another objective like they did, hard commit to an objective where they don't send anyone back, and then Monster can get another split push play, maybe take out the top inner turret or something like that. Monster is absolutely massive, but without the GA, he's going to have a really hard time being relevant in team fights. Since there's no real knockups coming from his team to help him out in team fights, he's not going to have an easy time team fighting by any means.
I'm going to have to agree with you there, but does look like he's just going to try and continue to push the lanes out. Not sure if he's going to be able to do much in this mid lane, but the blue team is on the bot side here, so he may be able to pick up this turret before they can do much in the way of responding. Panda Blubber is here, but this tower will fall before Panda Blubber gets in on him.
Yeah, not much respect for the split push here from Crackin Open a Cold One. They're just kind of letting Monster do what he wants, but he is going to go down here because of the overcommit, but he's going to trade 1-for-1 again. And that's exactly what they don't want here from Crackin Open a Cold One. They do not want to trade 1-for-1 for this Yasuo if they can avoid it. As the TP is coming in out of this blob, I just don't think that's worth it.
Yeah, especially since Zach has already fallen here. The Hextech Ultimatum does go down onto Zeta. That is the priority target at this moment. Panda Blubber is going to flash to get out, even though does have GA, and it probably would have been best to just allow the GA to be popped to get some health back. Valkyrama going ham in. Mandiblubber's GA will pop here.
Nice charm.
And that's going to be Alpha going down. Alpha really not having a good game today.
No, there's been a lot of really nice charms. There's been a lot of really close charms. I think a lot of these team fights are really close, and the difference between, each individual, missed or hit skill shot, especially on things like the charm and the enchanted crystal arrow, is really massive. There, Hanasong actually missed a charm, which put them in a really bad spot and essentially ended up costing Panda Blubber his guardian angel, and then the second hit charm ended up getting them a kill, right? So, it's a situation where every time Hanasong hits a charm, it's a huge win for Crackin in a cold one. Every time he misses a charm, it's a huge loss. So it's a
that's
really
going to be a Nexus
situation.
Tower going down there too.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's a really interesting situation where these team fights are very, 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 very close and can be decided by very, very, very small changes in how the teams play. Not just the charm, but there's lots of other skill shots. Things like the elastic slingshot, the hook shot, the enchanted crystal arrow. On the other side, things like the Zed shurikens after the death mark, the collateral damage. A lot of really important skill shots, a lot of really important abilities that can go one way or the other. And these team fights are extremely close. So at this point, the gold is still almost even exactly. There's only a 400 gold difference at 34 minutes, and this game could really go either way.
Now, look at the way that the Crackin Open a Cold One is positioned here. They're only just now responding to Monster in the top lane, which gives Zeta plenty of time to head down to the bot lane to respond to Panda Blubber. And they're still not really respecting the split push that Monster is putting out here, only responding after he's almost made it to his target.
Yeah, well,
so this doesn't bode very well for them in the future. Meanwhile,
wow,
Diabetes is going to go down, not going to go down. He's going to go down into the mid lane and walk away. That's what's going to happen.
No, I mean, classic question of...
Zeta, what are you doing?
What is he doing? He is going to get locked down by the Hextech Ultimatum, and Jarsa is in the fight here. And
yeah, Jarsa going in with the Let's Bounce. That's one person. Belkarama actually going down there. That's a double kill. Belkarama able to pick up Panda Blubber on the back foot as he falls down. That's it so far, but there are minions in Cold One's base here. They're not going to be able to get that inhibitor by themselves, though. The Monster is certainly going to try to get down to them.
Oh, he's thinking about going for this 1v1. I think he knows. He can see the three members in mid lane. He knows that Lord Ultra Titan is alone, and he definitely will win 1v1. This is an inhibitor going over. This is another just disrespectful play by Crackin Open a Cold One where they need to commit multiple members to make sure that inhib doesn't go down because they don't have a vision in their jungle. They don't know whether Monster is there or not. And Monster, even if he wasn't there, he had teleport. He could have easily TP'd onto one of those minions and just committed as soon as they saw all three members of Crackin Open a Cold One in the mid lane, as Alpha as Fuck is going to get prediction charmed by Hanasong and go down. That charm flew out before the relentless pursuit from Alpha came out. So
what a mad life this is.
Yeah, that was really nice play there. Hanasong is going off. I mean, I don't love his itemization here. I don't think that the Lich Bane makes any sense in this situation, but you know what? If your itemization is bad, at least you can play really well to make up for it. And I think Hanasong is playing really well in this game.
Maybe just testing out a new item build, seeing how it's working. I mean, this is learning fives. So yeah,
I mean, I'm all about learning, but in this situation, I think you get that Morella, you get that Zhonya's, and then you just buy a Death Cap and a Lich Bane, or sorry, Lich Bane, a Death Cap and a Void Staff for your big multiplicative items alongside your two AP itemizations.
Yeah. Where is that Death Cap, by the way? I haven't seen it in many mid lane builds recently. Has it fallen off for any particular reason, or is it just that other items have taken priority?
It's mostly just other items taking priority. I mean, things like Liandry's Torment are just really effective and efficient in the current meta. I mean, Liandry's is, I think, pretty universally agreed upon that Liandry's is a bit too strong right now. Even items, even items like Zhonya's are quite strong right now. Morello's, of course, is kind of a necessary item. And then Void Staff in general is just a better item than the Death Cap because you hit the spike so much sooner, and it's really effective against against all the MR itemization that you see now. You know, items like Gargoyle Stoneplate, Hex Drinker, very popular right now. So it's really important to be able to cut through that MR. So the Void Staff has just risen in priority, whereas Death Cap has kind of fallen relatively in priority because people are going for lower AP itemization like the Liandry's Torment and like the Zhonya's Hourglass, items like that that don't have quite as much AP, disincentivize you to buy the Death Cap. So not quite as popular. That said, another reason why I really dislike this build from Hanasong is because he's only got one item slot left, right? And that can only be a Death Cap or a Void Staff. You can't get both. And those are the two really big multiplicative items for your DPS and your burst as an AP mage. So Hanasong's just not going to have the damage that he should have in this game. Now, granted, this build does give a lot of movement speed, so he's going to be extremely mobile, and that will make it easier for him to kite around in these fights. And that is a nice aspect of the build, but I don't think it's worth giving up on all the damage that he could have had.
Now, there is a bit of a Baron dance happening here. This is very, very desperate for Team Cold One right now because they do have super minions pushing in their bot lane. They're going to send at least one person back. They're going to send two, Lord Ultra Titan and Panda Blubber. And because that has happened, the Baron has been started for Team Rip.
Slingshot in. Baron goes over to Rip ACVIUS.
Jarsa is going to get his passive popped and go down. Zeta, in the meanwhile, getting popped by Lord Ultra Titan, who has been
huge charm,
wildly growth. That's going to be a charm over on to Belkarama. That means that there are only 3 Barons left. Admittedly, one is on Monster, who's the only person who's been using any sort of pushing power in this game. Now they're looking on to the Elder Drake. They're going to want to clear this way before they head over there so they don't immediately tip them off, but Cold Ones already knows where they're heading.
Yeah, there's no jungler here on the side of Rip ACVIUS. I don't think they can commit to this Elder Dragon, even though there's no jungler. The Jarsa is dead as well. I just don't think you commit to this because you don't have any burst. You know, none of these champions, Lucian, Yasuo, and Karma, none of them have a respectable burst combo. It's not like Zed is up where he can, EQ auto all at the same time with his passive or something like that to just like burst the Elder Dragon from 700 or 600 HP. There's none of that up, so there's just no real reason to try and threaten the dragon, even though the enemy jungler is dead, because you don't have your own burst to secure. So I'm not really sure what the play here is for Rip ACVIUS, because they're in a situation where they are just spawning 2 players. They have a lot of pressure on the map, but they have multiple options, right? They can go for this top inner, which is what Monster is doing right now with the Baron buff, and they can try and pressure the Elder at the same time if they really want to, but it is dangerous. And if Hanasong continues to hit charms like he has been doing this entire game, then this could be a very dangerous situation where, maybe Monster gets that top inner, but they might lose someone for free.
Zeta is going to go in with the ultimate here and then get out with the help of his Hex Drinker. I just got my client to freeze. Now the Elder Drake is being started. It's already taken. Belkarama going to try and do something here. He's going to have to flash out. The charm does miss, but Hanasong does get over. Panda Blubber is going to fall. Type 2 Diabetes is going to go down as well.
They'll win the fight, but Monster's going to take their base. He may even be able to end another Nexus turret. Can he actually win the game? Or are they going to be able to get the bases off? I think they'll get the bases off, but Monster is going to get the Nexus turret, and he might be able to kill the Nexus. It's going to be close.
It's going to be close. It's going to be awfully, awfully close, but he does have GA. He is polymorphed here. That's big. It's only a few auto attacks. I don't think he's going to be able to get it here.
I don't think he's got this one.
Yeah. Zeta's here.
That's another inhib going down. They actually lost their bottom inhib again. Again to essentially minion pressure. Last time they did lose it to minion pressure plus Monster walking through the jungle and taking it out, but this time purely to minions. I believe there was 2 or 3 super minions there wailing on the inhibitor there because Crackin Open a Cold One did have to answer Monster on their Nexus. They're in an extremely precarious position now, where even though they got the Elder Dragon and they have a 3-dragon Elder, which is extremely powerful, they can't do anything because they have 2 inhibitors down and an open Nexus that's at extremely low HP. So
they really cannot extend at all in any situation.
They can't do anything unless they kill 3 to 4 members of Rip ACVIUS, and even then they're going to have to be extremely careful. So they're in a very precarious position. Even though they have a gold lead, even though they have a dragon lead, and even though they got the Elder Dragon, they're in a very, very, very dangerous position.
Yeah, the situation here for Cold Ones is basically ace them and don't lose anyone, and then do it again. And that would pretty much win the game. But other than that, there's not a whole lot that they can do in this situation until their inhibitors respawn. And even then, they're without Nexus Towers. So they basically cannot lose a team fight for the rest of this game. Otherwise, they will lose the game as well.
Yeah, if they lose a team fight in the next I don't even know, 4 minutes, they basically lose the game. If they lose a team fight in 5 minutes, then they might be able to hold, but they'd lose their inhibs again and then put them back in the same situation. So,
and they might even lose the third one in the process.
yeah, in that situation, they might even lose the third one. Although, again, since they don't have a lot of people, capable of tanking, if they get them low on the other side here of Rip ACVIUS, maybe the third inhib doesn't go down if they don't have the wave in position or something like that. But we are seeing Zeta get knocked up here by Jarsa. Zeta does have GA though, so this is going to take a long time to get him down, even if they do kill him, and that may end up being the mid turret going down, even if they do end up killing Zeta.
He is just wasting time here. He's trying to draw as many members as possible down so that the mid inhibitor can fall. He is going to fall himself of a very nicely timed charm, but that is the mid inhibitor tower going down. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow does hit type 2 diabetes. Panda Blubber does go in onto Monster. Monster is going to fall without killing anyone this time.
This is exactly what they need.
Yes.
They got 3 kills for the cost of their last turret in the game. They have no more turrets. All 11 of their turrets have died, but that allows them to hold their Nexus despite having 2 inhibitors down.
But what this means is that since every single team fight in this game has basically come on the back of them trading a tower somewhere, they have no turrets left. Like, yes, they still managed to get exactly what they needed to hold on in this game, but they have no towers. They cannot allow for another trade because the only thing they can trade is the goddamn Nexus. So
yep.
They really need to straight up win a team fight, and they have not done that once in the past 25 minutes of this game.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate position they've put themselves in. The advantage, though, I mean, on the good side, right? So that's like the negatives. That's looking at all the things that are unfortunate.
That's the glass, the half empty. Yeah.
The half full part is this is late game. They're against an all AD comp, and you can see now that Panda Blubber has finished the Randuin's, has finished the Deadman's Plate.
Finally.
You're seeing on the side of Jarsa, look at this armor stacking. Randuin's, Thornmail, I'm not a big fan of the Stone Plate here, but it's okay. And just Digitabby, he's still got one more slot to go to, but it's just incredible here. The GA is extremely effective. The GAs on all their champions are extremely effective here. The Ashe and the Camille picking up GA, really effective because it also gives 30 armor, that is a thing it gives in addition to the AD. 30 armor is not nothing. And the arrow, oh no, Zeta, what are you doing?
Dying.
That is a really big loss here. If Milkshake Mac goes down, it's not too bad, but
that's actually really going to be multiple people going down here. That's going to be Alpha falling as my client freezes up yet again. Let's Bounce does not hit anyone. Monster is going to use the Blast Cone to try and escape. Belcara is going to do the same. Belcara actually has the inner line here, but Panda Blubber is able to catch up on him, so Belcara will.
This may be game.
Belcarama. This could, in fact, be game. Monster is actually going to miss his tornado.
Committing that tornado into the Zonias was really bad, unfortunately.
He does have teleport. He does have teleport.
But Panda Blubber is in the base already, so he's not going to commit the teleport. And that inhibitor is actually going to respawn soon. So this puts Crackin Open a Cold One in a really good spot. Because now their inhibitors are all coming up, despite the fact that they have no turrets in the game. Not a single one. That's okay. Because they have Baron, and they have all their inhibitors up. So if they can just push out slowly, they can push out all 3 lanes, put themselves in a position where they can't simply get backdoored by a Yasuo or a Zed or something like that too quickly, then they can push up with their Baron, and they can actually potentially get an inhib on the other side, maybe even 2 with this Baron, as long as they're able to play this properly. And keep in mind, they will win almost every team fight, pretty much no matter how it gets initiated, because the enemy team's all AD, and they have so much armor stacked up. So how is Rip ACVIUS ever going to win this without getting a pick off or without getting a sneaky play where Monster or Zeta is able to sneak in and get an inhibitor for free, something like that? If they can't win in the situation where they had 2 inhibitors down, I don't know if they're ever going to be able to win.
Yeah, well, that is their win conditions at this point, is getting a pick, waiting for Crackin Open a Cold One to make a mistake. That's really what they need to do here, and I'm not sure if Cold Ones are going to make a mistake, but they have proven that they are capable of disrespecting the pressure that Monster in particular can have. So if they're able to buckle down and not make any mistakes, Zeta, what are you doing?
Oh no, Zeta, not again. He just died this way. and he's going to die again solo. And this is just going to cost his team a lot here, I think.
Yes.
I would be very surprised if this doesn't cost them an inhibitor. Zid is down for another 54 seconds. They have Baron buff here on the side of Crackin Open a Cold One. There's just no way they don't get something off of this. And they actually even know exactly where Monster is. That's the best part for them, is because they don't even have to worry, oh, maybe Monster sneaking into our jungle. They know where he is. They can see him sneaking into their jungle. They know exactly what he's doing right now. So there's no risk because they can just send Panda Blubber back. So
yeah, but can Panda Blubber fight him? Like, I know that Panda Blubber has all the item advantages, but it really comes down to how this is played. So,
well, the key here, look at the item differences. Notice how Monster had to buy a Spirit Visage and go Mercury Treads. That should allow Panda Blubber to actually win 1v1 because...
And it's not 1v1, it's 1v2 right now.
Yeah, well, he's also got the Lulu, but...
that's gonna be actually Hana going down in the meantime.
Yeah, I think that's actually worth it, though, again, for Crackin Open a Cold One, because they get the GA off of Monster as well. So losing that GA is a really big deal. As I keep saying, every GA cooldown is worth a lot. I think in this situation, Monster should be selling his GA and buying something else, because the GA, while it's on cooldown, is not that effective. It's just 40 AD and 30 armor, which isn't really worth an item slot.
Oh, game's over.
But, yeah.
No, Belkarama's in chat, so... Thanks for ruining it. But no, game apparently will end in the next 3 minutes, so we'll have to see how it turns out.
Spoiler
I don't
alert.
know. I think red team's gonna win.
Honestly, I think either team could take this, so that doesn't really tell us that
There's
much.
gonna go the wild growth into Let's Bounce. Belkarama getting very, very low. He is going to end up falling as my client freezes then again. Zeta, please stop doing this. My heart can't take it. He is going to get his GA popped, and Lord Ultra Titan is going to completely lifesteal back up. That is going to be him falling as well. It is just Alpha and Type 2 diabetes, and there is no way they can hold this. This is most definitely game.
Yeah, I would like to point out, by the way, that these polymorphs from Milkshake Mac onto Zeta have been critical in him getting picked off and dying for, essentially for free, many, many, many times in a row. As we're seeing, Monster is going to go down here. He got it handed by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. And, yeah, I mean, these polymorphs and Milkshake Mac have been on point. The charms from Hannah Song, for the most part, have been very on point. And, they were able to pull this off despite falling really far behind in turrets and just losing every single turret in the game. They're going to end this game here. This is going to be it.
Yeah, what it really comes down to is that it really just comes down to the draft here, is that... What, are you guys going to... Okay.
Hey, I mean, they can just hang out for a little bit.
Anyway, it just comes down to the draft that, Rip Becky... I can't even pronounce the names anymore. It's way too late.
Rip ACVIUS.
ACVIUS, those guys. Rip ACVIUS just drafted a comp that just would not win. It looked like maybe at different points in the game that maybe they could pull something out, but when it comes right down to it, there was no actual reasonable way for them to come out ahead in this game. And in the end, it just proves why there is certain things that are considered meta, because they work.
Hey,
as strange as that may sound.
I don't necessarily think this is so much about meta either way, but it's just, because there's non-meta picks on both sides, right? Things like the Camille, not meta at all, right? And they ended up winning the game, right? And the thing is, I think they just picked themselves into a composition where I think they tunneled really hard on their lanes. They say, oh, I want to pick Yasuo here because it counters the Camille in lane. I want to pick Zed here because I can win 1v1 against the Ahri, right? That's a skill matchup, and Zed thinks, okay, I can win the 1v1, which I think to some extent, maybe he had a CS lead. I don't recall exactly how the laning phase went, but I think it was mostly overall even, so it went fine for Hannah Song. But, they pick for their lanes. They pick the Karma really early to help win their laning phase. When other picks needed other picks to fit the comp, right? If that was a Zyra, I think they win that game 100%, because regardless of how different bottom lane would have been with the Zyra as opposed to the Karma, the issue is like that means the itemization from Crackin Open a Cold One would have been completely different, right? The Zac would have needed to get a Spirit Visage. The Camille would have needed to buy at least some kind of MR, probably, right? Like the fact that this comp allowed them to itemize all armor on the side of Crackin Open a Cold One, and Rip ACVIUS wasn't able to end early on in the game before the armor stacking came in heavily. That was the big problem here, I think. Meta champions are not meta champions. I think picking your all AD comp and then getting the late game, it's kind of over.
To be fair, Zach being incredibly powerful certainly did help.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't hurt at all. I mean, Zach obviously was pretty relevant, despite the huge mistakes in the early game top lane. Like, obviously, that minion Q from Panda Blubber probably was the entire reason that this game went as long as it did. I think if he didn't do that, then he probably would have been able to pull off a lot more laning phase pressure and would have been a lot more relevant earlier in the game. But even with that play, getting himself and Jarsa killed and losing Jarsa's passive and losing double buffs off of Jarsa and giving them the monster, even after that, just because they were able to extend the game with no turrets, they still pulled it off.
Well, with that being said, that's going to call it for us tonight. My name is Ken Dude. I am joined here again by N-Step. We are 1 for 1. That was a pretty good series by both teams, I gotta say. But yeah, that's it for us for tonight. Thank you all for watching. We will be back tomorrow with another exciting show match between people who are playing this game called League of Legends. I am very tired, and I hope you all have a very good night.